We're going to attempt to change this 12 by 12 piece of Kydex into an adjustable cheek rest. Stick with me, let's see how it goes. I'm going to use this piece of poster board here to make a pattern what we want to do with the Kydex. That way we don't mess up our Kydex experimenting. This way we can get it to the shape and the size that we want it. Make a mirror image on the other side for our slots, and then transfer it to our Kydex to make the final cuts. We got about 3 inches here at the front. Probably ought to bring it down to 4 inches. We can do a slight taper here to match the profile of the stock. Give us the maximum amount of adjustment up and down once we get our bolts mounted. So we'll start out by making a 4-inch mark from the edge here and then cutting this down to size. Looks like we're going to need 7 to 7.5 inches. I've made a mark here about how far the bolt has to come back in order to be extracted. So right there, I still have about 1/4 of an inch where I can take the bolt in and out. So make sure, if you're going to do this, to allow for the bolt extraction. Kind of hard to do this with it laying down, but that's what we've got now. So I've made a mark here as to how far forward the cheek rest should be, and we've got about 7 to 7.5 inches, somewhere in that neighborhood. And we've got about 4.5 inches height here and approximately 3 inches of height there, and we can trim that some. So let's cut out our pattern on the cardboard and see how that looks, and then once we get it the way we like it, then we can transfer it to the Kydex. Okay, I've got lines drawn on it now. This is 7 inches, so this will be front to back. This is 8 inches, be side to side. We'll make a bend right here at the 4-inch mark and lap it over the top of our stock. So let's go ahead and get this cut out, then we'll see how it bends over and see what trimming we may need to do. Okay, we've got our template cut to size, got it lightly creased in the middle, and we can line this up with the mark in the middle of the buttstock and fold it over and then see what we've got to work with. On these synthetic stocks, you're normally going to see a mold line down the center of the stock where the two halves of the mold come together, and there's a line that's left there from the molding process. You know that's the center of the stock. All you got to do is line up your template to the top of that line and everything should be good. I've centered the template onto the buttstock here. I'm using a clamp to help hold it in place so it doesn't move around while I'm marking it. As you can see here, we've got about 1/2 inch or so taper, and I think I'm going to mark that from the underside with a pencil to see where we need to trim it, and then we can mirror that on the opposite side as well once we take it off. So I'm going to turn it up like this and try to, I got a line on there now. Okay, we will take that off now and mark it on both sides and then trim it. We can touch it up, taper it, ease the corners any way we want to in order to get it to look and fit correctly. Okay, here you should be able to see the line that I marked from the underside. We're going to cut that and relieve that, and then do the same thing to the other side once we get this side fixed. Okay, we've got a rough cut of a profile. And what we'll do is to transfer that to the other side is just fold this over, match up the edges here, and then trace it and cut it on the other side. Okay, now all I got to do is cut that out. And it doesn't have to be real exact at this point, because once we get it transferred over to the Kydex, we can sand off the edges, profile them, and taper them as we need to make it feel right. Now let's see how it fits on here now. That looks pretty good. Like I say, we can work with that edge a little bit should we need to, but it's not going to be in the lowermost position anyway. It's going to be raised up somewhere in this neighborhood. We want to get the screws as close to the top as possible so we have the maximum amount of adjustment, but we need to get it on the flat of the side, not in the curved portion here. I don't know if you can see the curve, but right there where the light's reflecting is the curve. So you need to get it down here where it's flat. We want to get position from the end, get it somewhat symmetrical, get it away from the edge so it will be strong enough and won't have a tendency to buckle or tear out. So we'll probably come in somewhere around 1.25 to 1.5 inches from each side in order to do that, and I'll go ahead and mark that on our template here now. I think 1.25 inches for the leading edge of that slot, and we'll cut out our slot. Okay, we've got our measurements, markings on one side of our template. The center of the hole is going to be about 1.25 inches from the top, and we're going to have 2 inches of vertical adjustment. So we're going to have slots 2 inches long, and the center of the hole for the bolt is going to be about 1.25 inches from the top. This works out to fit the contour of the stock, where it gets into the flat portion of the stock. So we're going to go ahead and drill and cut the slots here on our template, and then we will transfer those markings over to our Kydex. I'm going to use a little block of wood as a backer while I drill this. I'm going to drill down through both sides at the same time. That way the holes should be evenly spaced. That's kind of a ragged hole, but we can trim that up. Mainly going to be used for marking the Kydex. It's not going to be anything other than that at this point. And get a razor blade, see if I can clean up these holes a little bit. They're kind of ragged. Okay, going to mark the holes on the stock just by tracing inside the hole here. mark the centers of the holes. I will center punch those. And again, we're going to have 2 inches of adjustment from the holes upward. That should get us plenty of adjustment here in order to get the line of sight through the scope there with our cheek rest. So getting close to the part that everybody loves, everybody dreads at the same time, and that is drilling holes through your stock. Worst thing that could happen is you got a couple of holes in your composite stock. You can plug them up if something doesn't go right. We're going to go ahead and do that. We're going to drill through this side and flip it over, drill through the other side. Okay, got my center punch out. Flip it over. Got both sides center punched. Gonna go ahead and use the 1/4 inch drill. Second hole here. Alright, what we've got in there is silicone. If you've seen my other video, we filled this buttstock with silicone to add some weight to balance out how we stiffened the forestock on this rifle. Alright, so we've got half of our holes drilled. We'll flip it over. We'll do the rest of them. Alright. Got some carriage bolts and nuts. All right, do the same thing here. This one lined up a little better. And some may be asking, well, why are you putting the bolts through from that side? Well, I shoot left-handed. I'm going to want my thumb nuts on this side. And that's the reason I push them through. The other thing, just checking for the length here. I think they're going to be okay. I bought 2 different length carriage bolts. These are the shorter of the 2. I think these are going to be just fine. Okay, let's get this cleaned up a little bit. You may notice on this Kydex there's 2 different textures. This is the back side. It's kind of slick and shiny. This is the side that will be out. You can see how it's more of a matte finish and it has a texture to it. And this is what we want on the outside. Okay, we've got our template now. We want to line it up with the edges. That way, less cutting. Just trace around the edges. Trace our holes. I don't know if you can see the pencil markings on there or not. Yeah, they're coming through. Now we'll center punch all those holes while we can still see the markings, and then we'll come back and drill those. Now we got our holes center punched, and we can go ahead and cut this out, shape it up, and drill those holes. Thought about several different ways to cut this Kydex. I'm going to try the Dremel tool cutting blade, so it's not critical that they be razor straight, but straight enough to be smoothed out. So I'm going to go ahead and start cutting. I've got it supported off the table here with some little blocks of wood just to help keep it steady. I'm going to put another block under there now. Have to get just right in order to see the lines. Okay, let's see what it looks like. All right, trim up these edges a little bit. Get the excess Kydex off, and then we come back with the sandpaper and smooth it down. Once we take the sandpaper to this, I don't think you'll be able to tell it. Regardless of which way you cut it, you're going to have to sand it, sand the edges down, and we'll radius these corners here a little bit too to make them more ergonomic. Alright, just clean it up. Fine. Just a little bit more here. And we'll do the rest of it with sandpaper, or possibly even a file. File might do a good job on that. Alright. I'm going to get the file, see if we can work on smoothing up those edges a bit more. So I'll be right back. Okay, I've got a rough file. Get some more of these edges off. Another thing about using a file, let you get these edges straight. Smoothing them out along the length of the file. Alright, looks a lot better. Now we can get ready to drill our holes that we center punched earlier for the sides. Now this will be the top. This is the grainy side, the matte finish. And this is the bottom, which is the shiny side. Well, I'm going to go ahead and drill where we've got them center punched. We should be good with that. Alright, we'll get set up and get started with that. Okay, got a piece of scrap wood picked up to use backer so we don't drill into our tabletop. Point of the drill. There's the first hole. Okay, later we will connect these two holes. That'll be the slot to allow the cheek rest to slide up and down. All right, 4 of the holes. That's all of our holes. This will be the center line. This will fold down on either side of the buttstock. Let's go ahead and connect the holes to make the slots here. I'm going to use a straight edge and a razor knife to mark where the slots should be, connecting the holes. Then I'll come back and cut it using the Dremel tool again. You want to be as accurate as you can with these, because this is where the carriage bolt is 1/4 inch and it has a square on it. And that square is going to line up in here, allows you to tighten the bolt and loosen the bolt. So these slots need to be right at 1/4 inch. But loose enough to allow the cheek rest to be adjusted vertically to slide over that bolt, and we'll cut it right inside the line at first, and then depending on how well the bolt slides, we can use a file and sandpaper to widen it. Okay. Didn't come all the way through. I was trying to keep from burning through too much. Finish that up. Clean up little plastic boogers around the edge and get a 1/4 inch bolt and see how well it slides. Put one here. Okay, looks like it's going to need to be widened out a little bit. That ain't quite wide enough, but you can always take out more. It's hard to put hard to put plastic back. Let's see. Yeah, it's the hole is enough, but the slots need to be widened just a little bit. So let's see what's going to be the best tool to do that with. Let's see what the file will do. Will the file even fit? Okay. Let's see what the bolt will do now. Still a little tight. I want to get this one slot finished, kind of test the process on this one. Okay, I had to get a different file, relieve that a little bit more. Now the bolt goes in and slides easily. Yet it's not too loose. the Kydex will grab it and allow you to tighten the bolt from the other side. So we just need to repeat that process for the other 3 slots. Okay, we've got all 4 slots cut now. All we need to do is heat it up and form it to the stock. We should be good to go. Okay, I have marked a line down the center of this so I can line it up with the center line on the stock. Because I only have a few seconds to work with it once I get it heated up. I'm going to get out the heat gun now and we'll start heating it up and forming it to the stock. I want to keep the heat gun moving, distribute the heat. You don't want to stay in the same place too long. And once it gets hot enough, it should start collapsing under its own weight. Then we'll know we got it hot enough where it can be formed to the stock. You can see it starting to droop a little bit now. Let's see what it'll do. Oh yeah. That's nice. It's lining up with the holes well. I think it needs a little more heat right back here. It shouldn't take long for it to cool off enough. The holes look like they lined up very well. And I can reheat the sides here and form them to it a little more if I need to. I want to get this initial curve formed into it. Let's see if we can put the bolts through and help hold it. Still a little bit of that silicone coming off as I run that bolt through. Alright, that's looking pretty good. Looking pretty good. I'll get another bolt through. Yeah. Clean out some of this foam that's in the way. There we go. There. Get the other thumb wheel on there. Alright. Here we go. You need to heat up those sides a little bit more and form those to the stock, and I can put a clamp on it. All right. Here's another clamp. All right. Now let's apply a little heat to it. All right. Clamp back on. All right. I'll shape it to the stock very well. It'll have a little tension on it at the bottom, so it have a little resistance sliding up, but I think that's okay. It'll allow it to hug the stock a little better. Looks like it's taking its shape pretty well now. Okay, let it rest in the clamps there for a little bit. All right, it's formed to the stock very well, I think. We'll do a little smoothing, or leave these edges a little bit, those sharp corners off. I think we're good to go. Be back with you in just a few minutes. Here's the finished product. Followed the contour of the stock here for this part. We've got 2 inches of vertical adjustment. I've currently got it locked in to where the cheek weld is correct for me and this scope. This scope is mounted a little high for various reasons. The primary reason is I wanted to retain my iron sight in case something happened to the scope. Also, I have a sunshade on the scope, and it barely clears the rear sight. And that's the reason it's mounted so high. That's a personal choice for me. I want the backup iron sight. That sight does not flip down, so it can't fold out of the way. I think that the cheek riser, cheek rest came out very good. Hope you learned something. If you did, please like, subscribe, tell your friends about it, forward it to others. I do things cheap. I try to do them correctly. And this turned out very good for me. Hope you liked it. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. We'll catch you later.